Good afternoon. I call the meeting of the North Syracuse Board of Education to order. Please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. This is a special meeting of the Board of Education. We have the BOCES administrative budget before us tonight. We have the district budget before us. So we're going to have a presentation to begin with the proposed district budget. Mr. Keegan and Mr. Bowles are going to review that. Then we'll have some speakers.
Okay. So as we get started, this has been a very challenging budget season. Our initial budget for next year had a significant deficit when we started. However, despite the inflationary environment and the loss of CURSA at the end of September this coming year, we're trying to make sure we're following the district strategic plan and sustain some of the critical academic and SEL support for the students. The budget includes investments in ELA, math, and a new fine arts director. Thankfully, our foundation aid is finally being fully funded, and after 16 years of being underfunded. Due to inclining enrollment, we've been able to reduce our workforce by 19 FTE. We're also using $400,000 in our fund balance savings for the budget. The total budget's $203 million. The tax levy on 101.7 million are the same numbers presented last week on the April 10th board meeting. This represents a change from year to year, 7.91%. The spending increase is 3.22% increase in the tax levy. Although New York has not finalized the state budget, we believe, based on our conversations with legislators, that the state aid will not change once the New York budget is final. There's a few slides that Don and I want to walk the board through. So, Don?
Where do you want to head to first, Dan? Do you want to look at fine arts first, or?
Sure. There's been a lot of feedback that has been provided, emails in regard to fine arts. And last year and this year, we were getting emails about a need for a director of fine arts. So we did put that in the budget, who will also oversee co-curricular activities. There has been staff that being moved to address enrollment shifts. There's no reduction in staffing in fine arts. We're going to continue the extensive fine arts course offerings, the added guitar one at the junior high. And we're looking to increase the availability of musical instruments and equipment. Oftentimes, students have to rent equipment, and sometimes that may change their decision. So we're looking to see if we can put musical instruments in students' hands earlier on. The new 4+1 art pathway will provide another rigorous pathway to meet the 5th assessment requirement for graduation. And we're looking at some increases to provide more opportunities for students. There's esports that's been taking off. So we're looking to do more of that. We have unified basketball. So we're looking to add unified bowling. In section 3, they're looking at adding girls flag football as an opportunity, and also girls wrestling.
Maybe I can just hit a couple of the just budget summary slides. As Dan said, we've got a budget of roughly $203.3 million, which is about a 7.91% increase. And the reason for that large increase is just we've absorbed all those expenditures that were previously covered by CURSA, as well as any contractual increases in obligations and inflation into this year's budget. So we've tried to swallow a lot here. And that's the overall budget numbers. We also wanted to just, emphasize, Dan mentioned that we've got a tax cap increase of 3.22%. It's at the cap. We're expecting a $67.41 increase for $100,000 home before STAR. We wanted to also just point out, on the expenditure side, we've included all these Cursa staff. We've had a benefits increase, pretty significant benefit increase, and that doesn't mean our employees are getting better benefits. It just means that we're seeing increases in healthcare. We're absorbing, some debt service costs associated with projects we've recently completed. And again, that's the total budget. I think, Dan started out by mentioning it's been a tough season and we had to close a pretty significant budget gap. So it does beg the question, how do we do that? And Dan mentioned we were able to eliminate 19 positions, primarily based on enrollment decline. And I've got a chart to show you what that is in a moment. We've reduced our BOCES budget in a number of key areas, just really fine tuning our utilization of that. Those areas, iTutor, virtual, and some software costs. And then, as I mentioned moments ago, we've had a pretty significant increase in benefits, but we've been able to tighten up that budget and other budgets as well, fuel, utilities, workman's comp, and equipment. And then, as Dan said, we've appropriated an additional $400,000 of fund balance. And I want to talk just really quick about these budget reductions. We walk this fine line. We have to make sure that we budget enough to cover the costs for the year. But the risk is if we budget too much, it forces cuts, right, that you wouldn't otherwise do. And we certainly don't want to be in that situation. So we really have tightened things up as we head into this year to make sure we preserve those critical programs that Dan talked about, academic and SEL. This next chart just shows you where those reductions were. So you can read the chart, but I'll just walk through really quick. In English, we reduced by one person, Spanish by one person, French by one person, physical education 0.4, science by one person, technology by one person, elementary ed, again, due to class sizes and enrollment, one person, special ed, we reduced by one person. The RN reduction is really more of a reevaluation of the post-COVID environment. We had added a lot of nursing staff, and so we've kind of looked at that and realigned the coverage to the post-COVID environment. The teaching assistants, 6 of those 7 are, again, we put some additional reading TAs or instructional TAs, a dozen to be exact, in our schools, 2 in each of the elementary schools. And we're cutting that in half because we feel like with CKLA started and a little bit of the COVID environment dissipating, we felt we could reduce that by 6 there. And then teacher aides, again, just based on workload and whatnot. I think it's important to point out that we had 32 retirements, mostly retirements with a couple resignations in there. And we're still going to have to hire 13.6 new staff members for the 23-24 school year to get our staff to where it needs to be to support the programming. I also wanted to point out that one of the things we're working on, these are our propositions. I'll just review those quick. People will be voting on May 16th on the budget, the vehicle proposition, which we've talked about, the identical proposition for the last several meetings, 3 board seats, as well as changing the voting location, finally, from Cicero OL to CNS. We're excited about that. A student representative on the Board of Education. And then for those residents that live in Salina, they'll be considering the Salina library budget. We're trying something different in terms of the staff and community presentations. We have found that attendance has kind of dwindled over the years at many of these presentations. And we've also found that people like to watch things online when they can. So we're having presentations at our schools so that people can go to any school they want to and attend a presentation. There'll be a blend of staff and community members. We've got a couple that are staff only. And the reason we're doing that is that just the logistics of those locations and the spaces we'll be meeting in really didn't facilitate staff and community coming. And then we've added the online webinar capability. So we'll be broadcasting budget presentations with the opportunity for the community to post questions that we'll attempt to answer. And so these are all the sessions. You can see there's numerous sessions over the next several weeks to give everybody a chance to hear about the budget. And that's pretty much all I really had in terms of recapping. Are there any questions for Dan or myself?
Okay, any questions? What I'd ask the board, I mean, we've seen this. We know where we started. We know about the deficit. We've dealt with inflation. We've had the add-ons over the last couple of years that we've had to sustain. We've added a fine arts director. We're at $203 million. We'll have this before us when a motion's made and there's a second, so you can ask questions then. But I thought with this budget presentation here, if there are questions now, we've received a lot of communication, emails directly to all the board members, emails to individuals forwarded to some of us. So I want to make sure everybody on the board is clear at this time. Have your questions been answered? If not, this would be a good place to ask them, or when the motion's in front of us.
There was one thing that was mentioned about a reduction in hours to someone who's supporting the mental health of the children. Was that answered, addressed, or what is happening there?
When you say the mental health of the children, is that a mental health provider, or you're talking about someone that is doing classroom instruction?
Someone who's doing classroom instruction that the kids feel close to. So it isn't an actual mental health, and maybe an explanation about what we've done in mental health to support the kids.
We've added in this budget, we've maintained what we had as far as mental health. And one of the things that we're doing within our schools, because we've added so many different supports, the recommendation is not to have the classroom teachers doing all the mental health things, to refer them to the professionals that we have in the buildings.
That does make a lot of sense, and the accessibility I know has been addressed several times so that there's more and more outlets for the kids to find the help that they need.
There's a lot of different mental health providers within our buildings at this time.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Crabtree.
No questions, but I'd like to make a few comments. This budget was not an easy budget. Four of us were on the budget subcommittee. I personally want to thank the executive committee for all your work. Dan Bowles, who was very supportive of program, mental health and other things. And Chris, thank you. And Don and Jason, thank you for all that. The class sizes for kindergarten through 6 are amazing. I wish I had that back when I was teaching in the school district 16 years ago. Thank you for that. Yes, we're losing 1, but we'll have 8 new elementary teachers in this district next year. It was based on enrollment. So thank you very much for keeping the class sizes. You know, I ask for that every week, and I thank you for giving me that. I want to thank the community and especially the music people for the director of fine arts. Without your support, this might not have been in the budget. There are some board members who have been really working hard, but you helped to bring that about. So I'm excited about someone coming in here, looking at all our art programs and our music programs and making them number 1. We cannot go on without supporting our legislators. Senator Mannion, Senator May, Al Sturpey, they've been there for us. They meet with us once a month. They're still in Albany right now and working for us, because there's not only is the budget one of the things monetary, but we're looking for things like universal meals, not having so many charter schools and so forth. And they're there right now fighting for us because there are a lot of other issues that are not in this budget that we need. And I know next year it's not going to be easy. You'll be starting on this budget during the summer, and we'll be losing our final amount of money from the federal government, and we want those people still in the budget. So we're going to have to do some work, but I am pleased with this budget. Is it perfect? No, nothing's perfect in life, but there are a lot of good things in this budget, and we're moving North Syracuse to be the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crabtree. Other comments? Okay, seeing none,
Thank
we
you.
will move to the public comment section of the board. Just to remind, we haven't had speakers in a little while, and I do kind of paraphrase this and shorten it up each time we meet, speakers or not. But we do set aside this time for speakers from the public to sign up with the board clerk by the Friday before. We allot 3 minutes per speaker. The board clerk will run a timer, so I ask speakers, please stick to the 3 minutes when you hear the little, is it a ding or a beep? I'm not sure what it is, something like that. Please wrap it up quickly and I'll try to remind you if you keep going. Again, all the remarks are addressed to the board. We don't engage, but if you have questions that are left with us, they will be responded to through the district. And as always, please, anything you have in writing, please get it to the board clerk. She will make sure that we all receive a copy of that. So we'll begin with our first speaker is, do you have the order? Is it Robin Lisi? Okay, to comment on fine arts.
Call for me. Is that working? Well, I'm grateful that our district is finally adding a director of fine arts. I'm appalled and disappointed that it was done by desecrating the music program at the high school. There are currently 3 full-time music teachers there. In the fall, there will be 1 full-time and 2 part-time. The teachers will work part-time at the high school and part-time at Cicero Elementary. The high school operates on a 4-day rotation. Elementary goes by days of the week, and they start and end at different times. How does this work? How does vocal jazz work when it now meets on the same day every week? I'm told it'll have to rotate. But what about those kids who need to work a part-time job, whose parents need a consistent day? I'm told by admin that the students will have to work it out. Plus, there's many kids who drive. That's wrong. Kids should not have to work it out or choose between work and music. And it's not just vocal jazz. What about the fall play? All county, all state. These things take place after school. It can't happen when the teacher is only there 2 or 3 times a week at most. And what about lessons? There used to be 4 choices. Now there will just be 1. That means my kid might be pulled from the same class every day, every time. What if it's an AP class or a class they're struggling with? Admin told me they can just not do lessons. Really? The course catalog entitles my son to a lesson. I was told they can choose if they want to get a lesson or miss that AP class or the class that they're struggling with. So what's my take on this? They say numbers are down, but if it was really about the numbers, administration would have taken one of the suggestions put forth by the high school teachers. They weren't considered, not one, not even a dialogue. And how about this? When the kids rallied, made a video and tried to increase the numbers, the kids were questioned and asked if they were being coerced into signing up for chorus. Anyone else see that this is not a numbers game? If it was, they'd be jumping for joy that the numbers were going up, not grilling students. They're trying to find money to hire a director of fine arts at the expense of taking music teachers away from students. This will decimate the music program at the high school. How do you recover from something like this? They're going to tell you no cuts were made. What they can't tell you is they did it in a way that makes sense for the kids. Because if they did, it wouldn't be a 4-day schedule and a 5-day schedule. It wouldn't be starting at 7 or starting at 9. And they can't tell you they're not intimidating kids to not take chorus, because they are. I was going to end with, I hope you all hear the music before it's too late, but here's the thing, you won't. Because without some of these groups, there will be no music at graduation or awards night or honor society. And there's going to be a whole group of kids who once belonged, but now don't. Today's the day the music died at CNS, unless you folks act. You're these kids' last hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Heather Arnold.
Hello, my name is Heather Arnold, and I am currently a senior at CNS High School. I would like to take a moment to address the issue at hand, the crippling of the music department. I have been a student in this district since the junior high, and I feel this topic is very close to my heart. Coming into the music department, I was a very shy kid and believed as though I had no voice. Yet later on, through hard work, courage, and the hard work of my music teachers, I finally found my voice. I found a family that welcomes me with open arms and a place of togetherness. I found a place where I felt as if I could be myself. In my sophomore year, my life took a turn for the worse, and I found myself in the hospital. Coming out of a 3-day coma, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I found myself stuck at home while my friends were back in the building and with what felt like no hope of doing what I loved anymore. I found a wonderful teacher who brought joy and music back into my soul. My life felt whole again for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Music has saved not only my life, but so many other students' lives. We have all made bonds that will last us forever. Seeing the music department disappear before my eyes is something I thought I would never have to see. Taking away the resources from the teachers is also taking them away from us students who in some cases may be the only outlet of escape to reality for just a small period of time. We all look forward to these classes and have a space to call our own where we are finally heard and appreciated for all we are as humans without judgment. Taking away this program will not only damage the students and the teachers, but the district as a whole. It is in the students' opinion and others like me that if this district wants to continue to thrive and be called the North Star Nation, you allow the music program to stay as it is and let it thrive further than what it has. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Carilla? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving along, we have some discussion action items. We have a recommendation to amend the 22-23 school calendar. If I get a motion, place that before us. Motion from Dr. Kramer, second from Mr. Moody Woosick. Okay, we are amending the school calendar based on our understanding, the not use of emergency closing days. Okay. Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Motion, please, for approval of the 23-24 BOCES budget. Motion from Mr. Crabtree, second from Mr. Marizio. Okay, we have the BOCES budget before us. We had a presentation last board meeting from BOCES. Some of us went to an awesome budget presentation because they had a dinner with it last week at BOCES.
Could I just say just a couple
Yes.
words?
That's in front of,
For the people that weren't there, you will only be voting shortly on the administration expenses, not the program, not capital budget and so forth, which totals over $9 million. And then North Syracuse, based on the enrollment, will be paying $300,000. So that is what you will be voting on.
okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions on BOCES, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And motion, please, for the election of the Onondaga, Cortland, Madison, BOCES board members. Motion from Dr. Kramer, second from Ms. Kruger. Okay, we have that before us. Would you like to?
Well, yeah, I just
speak?
want,
Yes.
you're given names, but I want to kind of tell you a little bit about the people. You'll be voting for 3. Christine Gregory is president of the Cortland Enlarged City School District, but she also represents Homer. She was a teacher for many, many years, more than I was, and she's phenomenal. The second person you're going to be voting on is Lisa O'Reilly from the West Hill School District. She also is president, but she represents a lot of school districts: West Hill, Onondaga, Salve, and Lincourt, and I probably forgot another one. And last, you will be voting on, I call her the matriarch of BOCES, Joan Reeves, who has been on the board over 25 years. She represents Beeville. Those will be the 3 people that you'll be voting on.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And a motion for the formal adoption of our 23-24 budget. Motion from Dr. Kramer, second from Ms. Grew. Okay, the budget is before us. This will be a roll call vote, but before we do that, do we have any further questions or discussion items here? Yes, Ms. Grew.
I know a lot of parents have asked me also about the music program, and I was under the impression that it wasn't like all the kids that are in chorus or whatever now are still gonna have those same opportunities. So I just want to make sure that was the case. Like last year to this year, that they're getting the same.
As far as course, there are opportunities that are still there. The question was, will the full-time people still be there to offer as many? We are splitting that because of an increase at Cicero L, and the numbers had decreased at the
And
high
a
school.
decrease at the high school.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make.
And there were two
That's what we-
music offerings that had a lower enrollment that were not being offered.
Okay.
Other questions? Yeah, it's just my comment, not a question, just as my hope with a fine arts director coming on board when we do get that in place, assuming we pass this. I would hope they can take a deep dive and a look at the program to see what is going on with the numbers and what we can do. Any other comments or questions? This is a roll call vote, so.
I do. Sorry, I do have a
Sorry.
question. I know that there's grants and things like that for like Save Music, things like that. Is a grant writer looking into some possibility of if we do need more time or funds for the music department, are there grants available that we've looked into?
That piece I'm not aware of.
Okay.
So we can definitely look at some things, but I am not aware of a grant writer for some things in music.
Okay.
Okay. thank
Yeah,
you.
I'd like to piggyback on that. Yeah, I'd really like to find some funds to do this for the kids. This is just as important as anything else we do for these kids.
Other comments or questions? Okay, you may proceed. Yes. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is carried. The budget's adopted for 23-24. With that, I will make a motion for executive session. I'll be asking for a second. Motions to move in for the purpose of receiving an update on the employment record of one individual with action to follow. If I get a second for that, second from Mr. Maurizio. Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? We are in executive session. Should we adjourn after? We can't adjourn. We'll adjourn when we come back out. Okay. Thank you.